This is the Multifamily Mastery Meeting. My name is Farrell. If you don't know me, I'm your host, and co-hosting with me, as always, is Miss Allyson Byerly. You're noticing some changes here, so we finally started to upgrade. We have some food and drink in the back. Please eat all of that. I don't want to take it home. And please sign in and check out everything, with the QRs as we go. Before we jump in, though, I want to take a minute and express our appreciation for our sponsors. So we have the National Financial Network back there. We have Ade Papula as well. So NFN is a renowned financial advisory, and they cater to the needs of real estate investors in the Valley. Their team provides invaluable insights to help guide investors achieve their financial goals. And we're really excited to have them offer a complimentary consultation to each attendee here. So please stop by their table and go through with that. We hope you take advantage of this. They're some of the best in the industry, so we're super excited for that. In addition to NFN, we also have Ade himself here, which you probably spoke to. As a sponsor, he's a very successful real estate investor, and he's definitely a big figure in the Valley. And so if you're interested in getting into the real estate world, whether it's wholesaling or just getting started, he's your go-to guy. So please connect with him, get his info. We'll share his socials, and we'll share his info from that. But please have a convo. And we encourage you to visit their table, like I said. They have an awesome giveaway back there. They're giving away some Beats headphones. So if you scan the QR code and you'll enter in, somebody will win that tonight. So please take advantage of that. And so one more thing, NFN is also a huge firm. Usually people are charged to meet with them. So you guys are getting this for free, which is a big perk. So like I said, please take advantage of that. It'll take your real estate game to the next level. And so I just think it'll be awesome. Allie?
What today's going to look like, we're going to start with introductions, then we're going to do a Q&A with our guest speaker, George, who's a real estate investor, serial entrepreneur, published author, bodybuilder, youth soccer coach, and motivational speaker, to name a few. And then afterwards, feel free to network with people, grab food, grab drinks.
We're going to do a quick intro, so do us a favor and turn to your neighbor, just say hello, do not tell them your whole story, like 30 seconds, and then we'll get going.
All right, so we're going to get started with our interview with George. So just tell us a little bit about your backstory. How did you get started in all of this?
All right. Hi, everybody. How's everybody doing tonight? Thanks for coming out. I like to kind of go back to the beginning, actually. I was thinking about what I was going to talk about, and a lot of people don't know the backstory. So when I was young, my grandmother took custody of me in Greece. So I moved to Athens, Greece, and I lived there until I was about 5, right before kindergarten. My mom brought me back. She wanted to have me back in the States. And I remember it was the summer before kindergarten, and I had gotten back the summertime. So my dad were going through a lot of stuff. My dad was always a very kind of aggressive guy. My mom she wanted to protect me because my grandmother was like really loving in Greece. And she sent me to Newark, New Jersey. And no, I'm sorry, not Newark. West Orange. I apologize. West Orange, New Jersey. Big difference, right? If it was Newark, I'd probably be stealing the house. Obviously. Last time I made a joke about Newark, somebody got mad at me. So if it's Newark, I'm just kidding. I'll be out the back door when we leave now. But it was West Orange, New Jersey. And I remember I had just come from Greece, and we were like poor in Greece. I mean, we had the bathroom was outside. The reason why I remember is because I remember one night I asked my grandmother like 20 times to take me to the bathroom. She's like, "What is wrong with this kid?" And I ended up having I was like 4 years old. I remember I had to go to the hospital. I had like a urinary tract infection. I'll never forget. So they gave me like a shot. So when I came to America again, I went to this uncle's house right away, and this guy had this amazing house, a huge fridge. Every night my great aunt would make me like these ice cream shakes with white eggs and egg yolks, and it gave me weight, I guess. They had this huge TV. I remember like the movie James Bond came out. I remember all these details, right? It was like, wow, where am I? They had this huge pool and apple trees in the back. They had apricot trees. I remember because I was a really curious kid, so I remember opening the apricot, and I was like, wow, there's something in the middle of this. So I decided to go in the garage, and I broke it with a hammer, and inside I found an almond. I loved almonds as a kid, but it wasn't an almond. It was actually the seed of the tree, and I ended up going to the hospital. So I had a really wild summer, right? But I just remember thinking, like, I remember as a little kid, like, just realizing, like, this was a different type of lifestyle. Like, whatever's going on here is something I've never seen before. I didn't see it in Greece. It definitely wasn't happening in my house. So the backstory, which I found out later in life, as I got a little older, was my half my family moved to the USA. I mean, a lot of them stayed in Greece, but the section that left, half went to Melbourne, Australia, half came to New York. Okay, so at the time, New York was my mom's dad and my mom's dad's first cousin. They both came here. They both were like cooks and chefs, so they both became chefs. My uncle, I called him my uncle, the one from Jersey, he became like an oyster chef, and he did really, really well. He got promoted, he started making a lot of money, and it turns out he started buying apartments. And he saved all his money, he did the right thing. He saved his money, bought apartments. Eventually, he upgraded from apartments to motels and apartment complexes. But my grandfather, he ended up getting involved in like alcohol and other things and gambling, and he ended up actually becoming homeless. It's crazy. I remember when I was 5, the earliest memory I have of my grandfather was he was literally on the street, like a homeless person, and he had his little brown paper bag. And I remember my uncle was like, "You're gonna come meet your grandfather, which is your mom's dad," and he had a little bag of candy for me. That's the only thing he's ever given me. I think I saw him one more time after that, but he was literally homeless, living in his cousin's motel. And when my mom told me the story, and I realized, wow, like my uncle has this amazing life from real estate. Like, and he not only did he have an amazing life, he had adopted kids, he had foster kids. There used to be homeless people that would hang out at the pool. And I used to think, like, what's all these people that have no homes? As a little kid, I could tell they were disheveled, right? But he had such a huge heart. He would have so the money he made, he was able to give back to a lot of people. And I remember thinking, you know what, I want to be just like him one day. I want to have real estate, I want to have a better life. But unfortunately, as life went on, I had a lot of abuse in the home, and my parents had divorced, and we had an abusive stepfather. Next thing you know, I'm like 15, 16, rebelling, hating life, and kind of forgot about my real estate dreams. I just kind of was like, you know what? I remember like when I was 17, I got arrested for trying to threaten my stepfather. I had to move out, I had to get my own apartment, and never really thought that I was going to be worth anything in my life at the time. I remember thinking, I'm just going to just be average. I'm not going to do anything with my life because life sucks. So I went through that phase, and I remember moving back to Greece when I was in my 20s, and then I got into bodybuilding. I got into bodybuilding and back into college, and I started gaining some confidence. And I remember it was like 2011. I had this like idea, maybe I can get into real estate now that I'm focused again in my life. And at the time, my mom has a day spa I was working for. We had just opened up a hair salon, and I was able to show pay stubs. Back then, it was a little bit easier. Like, I think you still get loans from like mortgage lenders, not banks. But it wasn't that hard. It was like you just showed a couple stubs and you got approved. So I got approved for a 3-unit in Allentown, and I was really excited. I was supposed to live in the 1 unit technically, and I was able to show my stubs, and I think I was able to get FHA. But then, like a week before the closing, the realtor calls. He goes, "Hey, the house went into short sale." And I had no idea what that even meant. And he explained to me, like, you're gonna have to pay a fee. This might not work out. This might take 6 months to a year. And I remember I was so angry because I had just paid $1,000 for the appraisal for the 3-unit, and he's like, "You're not getting that back." And I was really mad at the agent. Actually, I still don't talk to him, and I think he knew something was up. But it kind of put a bad taste in my mouth, and I was kind of like, man, maybe this isn't for me. But around 2012, 2013, I started to self-develop. I started to read a lot of books, and I started to really realize that you can't just make one. You can have one bad thing spoil it forever. A lot of people do have that. I remember I was doing network marketing, which is where I made a lot of my money to do real estate. But there were people like, "Oh, I did network marketing and it didn't work for me." And I would say, "Well, yeah, but that was a different time. You were a different age. It was a different company." So a lot of times we fail at something one time and then we get scared, like, "Oh, I don't want to do that again." And that's probably the biggest downfall that people have. They give something one shot, and because it didn't work out, it takes a lot of shots sometimes to be, I don't want to jump all over the place because I have attention deficit, but I remember our first rental I actually physically bought, I had a drug raid 2 months into it. And we'll get into that. But so I ended up, that fell through, and then I decided to go after, get my associate's degree. I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do in my life. I got myself in a little bit of trouble in 2008 with the whole bodybuilding lifestyle. So I was trying to do the right thing, and then in 2012, I got involved in a network marketing company. The network marketing company was my first time ever doing it. It made a lot of sense to me. I worked really hard. I made a lot of money doing it my first year. Prior to the network marketing company, I don't think I made more than $40,000 a year legally. I said that legally at the time. But I ended up making $186,000, and I was like, this is crazy, And I thought, well, this lifestyle is totally different. I remember it was so crazy. I go to the malls, and I used to go to Buckle back then. I used to dress like UFC fighters to look stronger, But I was like, man, like I have like no worries. Like I have a $500 spending. I mean, it was great. I mean, I was still living with my mom though, so that helped. Yeah, I lost my house when I got in trouble in 2008. I lost my home, my car, everything. My bank account was wiped out, and I went back and moved in with my mom because I changed my whole circle of influence. I changed everything in my life. I just said, you know what? The people that are around me are not really lifting me up. You know, they're kind of holding me back. So I don't want to have to keep coming down here. I have to move up without them. So I moved back home with my mom, who was like my biggest fan. And that really helped. I was able to save money. I was able to go to school. I was able to focus. My mom got me into the network marketing business. I started saving money, and I bought a condo. My first property was a condo. Actually, no, let me take that back. My first property was my own home that I had to move out of because I got myself in trouble. And I remember thinking, like, what am I going to do with this house? I can't live here anymore. I can't afford it. I just happened to be at a party one night, and this girl was complaining about the roof leaking and this and that. And I was like, she was living about a block away from me. And I was like, what did you pay rent here? She's like, I don't know. I forget what it was, $1,000. I said, what if I can give you the same exact home, like only one block down the street, but way nicer? Would you take it? She's like, heck yeah. I was like, all right. I remember like earthed out all my carpets, got my floor sanded myself, they all poured around. She rented it for me. And that was my first taste. I was making $400 a month profit on that house. Because I bought that home in 2002, and there was this program back then called the HOOP program. I don't know if anybody's ever heard of it. I don't know if they even do it anymore. Where as long as I held the house for 5 years, the bank would take off like $8,000 off the loan or something. So I remember thinking, wow, like I'm broke, but this $400 is really like keeping me afloat. And she was a really good tenant. Like she did everything herself, thank God, right? And I ended up then buying my first rental property cash. I saved all this money I had saved like $113,000 cash. And I had my friend of mine named Darren. I don't know if you guys know Darren, but he owns like Rolex Motors. He kept telling me like my Lexus looked like a girl's Lexus. So he had me spend $3,000 on rims and lowering my car, which is horrible. Other than that, the rest of the money went to a condo. I bought a condo for like 83 grand. I paid cash for it. And the lady who was renting it was like the president or like the vice president of a company called Knoll. It was like furniture or something. You know what I'm talking about? It's like a lease port maybe or. And she's like, can I stay here for like 6 months to 8 months without you kicking me out? Because I'm building my dream home. I was like, you know what, I can live on the lot for 6 to 8 more months. And so now I'm making like $700 a month, right? And she finally moves out. I move in. But I do what's called a HELOC loan, home equity line of credit on it for about $83,000 through the bank. And now I have this goal. I was like, you know what, I want to get 5 rental units. Because now I'm living in that house, so it's not really a rental. I'm like, I want to get 5 rental units in 2013. So at the time, I remember like it was crazy because I literally could go look at 10 houses and there was like nobody else looking but me. And like, I don't know what was going on back then, but the houses were so cheap. I could wait like a week and a half to put an offer in it. So I remember I was like, maybe. I looked at like 10 of them and I was like a week later, I was like, I'll take this one, this one, this one, this one. I was like, I got them all. So I closed on December 31st, 2013 with 5 units. 2 on 10th Street, 2 on 8th Street, and 1 on Ellinger Street. And those were my first 5. And basically what I did was I used the line of credit for the down money, and I got loans. And then I was able to get like 2 more houses at line of credit, and then that line of credit ran out. So now I was at like 7, and I'm like, all right, well, how can I, get more money? So I started saving money again. I was doing really well financially, but then I realized I could refinance the original home in West Louisville that I had to move out of. I had a tenant. So I was able to refinance the house. I pulled out $33,000 out of it. So I was able to like lower the interest rate, cut the loan from like 19 years down to 14. Also lower the interest rate, only pay like an extra $100 a month, but pull out 33 grand. So with that, I started buying in South Side of Bethlehem. The houses were like 40 grand over there, like on Mechanic Street, Lamb, Walford, all those places. And I started buying those with the money as down money. And then by that time, Bank of America started giving me these like offers, like, hey, here's 30 grand, just sign this check and you pay a one-time 3% fee. So I was like, all right, well, if I borrow 30 times 3 is 900. So imagine if somebody gave you 30 grand for a year for free, and you just had to give them $900. So I was like, I'll take that one. I had another one for 50. So what I would do is I'd be like pretty slick about it though, because I would have money in the bank, my own money, but I never wanted to spend my money. So the traditional banks would want to look at my bank account to see where the money's at. So they would see the money in there and be, okay, we're cool. And then about 5 days before closing, I'd write myself the check and cash it. And then my credit score would just take a plummet because I just cashed like 50 grand check and it would go on my personal side. But the bank would never see that my credit score would drop. By the time I went to get another loan 6 months or a year from now, I would pay back those lines with my rents. And then there's this one line of credit that I had was in a business line that didn't report on my credit report. So worst case scenario, I would maneuver stuff around, right? Next thing you know, like my goal was 20 properties. I remember 7 was easy, 11 was easy. I remember even having like 19 and 20, and it got pretty easy. And then I don't remember how I got. To be honest with you, I don't remember after 20 how it all went. All I know is like I was doing very well. They were saying about entrepreneurship. At one point, prior to COVID, I had a clothing company, a nutrition company, a credit repair business, a credit repair school, 3 books that I had written. I had a company in Dallas paying me $48,000 a year to publicly speak for them once every 90 days. They would fly me to whatever state they wanted me to, and they would actually even give me a Mercedes. They would pay for my Mercedes. He knows, right? Mr. knows. So I was like, it was crazy. I was like rolling in the money. So I must have probably used some of my own money, or I kept maybe being creative. And then I kind of scaled a little too fast. I got to like 38 properties, and a lot of stuff started going wrong, like a couple of evictions, some big issues, personal stuff. There was a lot going on. So I remember like in 2019, I was like, you know what, let me sell like 12 of these. And I pretty much like doubled my money. I paid off my house, paid off my cars. Like I literally today have no financial personal debt at all. Like everything's, it's amazing. Like I don't have anything. I'm very fortunate. And then I reinvested some of that. Money to buy more rentals. So I was able to literally buy like. So what happens is, here's what I've learned in my life. Like you get to a threshold. I always like to say every level has a new devil. Whether that's like how can I explain it? Temptation, because you have new people in your life and new money and things change, you know. Or it's more issues that you're not used to, more responsibilities. And sometimes it's really hard to go from like 23 rentals to 38 in 2 years, right? So it was very overwhelming. But then what happens is, as long as you stick with whatever you're doing, your body gets like a threshold. Then it actually gets used to that much like stress, and that much stress eventually becomes easy. And that happened to me again. So before COVID, I sold 12. I ended up then feeling like I was okay. I bought 8 more, played off my car, all these other things. Things are great, and then COVID hits. I got like 1 property right like at the end of 2020, but then everything kind of changed. Just life changed. I mean, the whole world just seemed to change. And you know, I got rid of my clothing company, my nutrition company, the credit repair school. Everything kind of fell apart. The company that was paying me to travel sold. I got sold to another company. They stopped paying me all that money. It's crazy. I just put a $40,000 pool in, and I was getting used all the money I was getting from the allowances to pay for the pool, because it didn't cost me that much to travel to these places. I literally fly in for a day or drive. And then I was like, man, what am I going to do? You know, so I went through this, like, I'm going to be honest with you guys, I went through this like little depression. And it wasn't even about money. It was more about like my purpose all of a sudden changed. You know, I was publicly speaking at schools. I spoke at Allen, Dira, Jim Thorpe. I had a 12-school tour before COVID, plus things like this, flying all over the country, which is great. You know, it was always to give back. I remember when I was killing the game, you and your boyfriend came to. I used to offer for free. Hey, I'm going to look at a house tomorrow. Who wants to come? And literally, like, people would Uber. They didn't have driver's licenses. And I'll never forget, because I thought it was a good deal. And he's like, well, it was just smart. He's like, well, the vacancy rate is 5%. And I was like, bro, we have paralyzation by analyzation. But then I heard you're doing really good now, so I'm happy to hear that. When I work, but I was like, this guy talking about vacancy rate. There ain't no vacancy rate. But he was so analytical. I was more like, which is how you're supposed to be. I'm just like, it looks good. I think I can get it all car. I'll buy it. You know, they just hope for the best. Like, I'm a risk taker. You know, you still have that formula, or you don't use it anymore? But I used to always want to get back to people, and so then like I was kind of like just on Facebook one day, and it was Giovanni and yourself, and what's the other guy's name I dealt with? You. I forget his other name. Noah, right? Or, yeah. We won't say what company it was, but they hit you like, hey, you want to refinance your places? And I'm like, no, why would I want to do that? And they're like, well, you know, we have this thing called a DSCR loan. So here's what happened to me, right? So ESSA had given me like $1 million. And now they were like, hey, you can't get any more money from us unless you put 10% into a savings account. I was like, what do you mean? Like, you have to put $100,000 in a savings account, we won't give you any more loans. So that was tough. I had to keep $100,000 in a savings account. And all of a sudden, they're looking at my tax return. The year that I sold like 11 or 12 and bought 10 or whatever it was a bunch. It was like 18 homes in 1 year selling, buying. They're like, hey, your tax returns, you spent 108 grand over what we want you to spend. I'm like, yeah, but I bought 10. It cost me 5 grand on each one. As soon as I buy a house, the first thing I do is I paint outside. I set the tone immediately. Like, I just, even if I'm not going to get that back, I have this thing about like how I conduct myself. I always say how you do one thing in life is how you do everything. So a lot of times I'll buy property and I'll never get that money back. But you know what? When I drive to that neighborhood and I see that red door and that gray house and it stands out and the rest of it, I know that's me, right? And so they started to, and I said I spent 5 grand on like every single home. So 18 homes times 5. They're like, we don't care. There's this new formula. And they sent me this formula and I'm like, what is this? So my accountant's like, man, this is going to be tough. I said, why? But because there's no way we can like write your stuff off anymore like this. We're going to have to write it off over 27 years. So you're not going to get these tax benefits anymore if you keep this bank. So when COVID hit, my loan officer retired. The guy who had given me every single loan my whole career, right? And I'm like, wow, like, this is crazy. I have this I'm on probation now. The $100,000 is stuck. So I didn't know what I was going to do. And then they reached out to me and I started learning about this thing called a DSCR loan.
Does everyone know what a DSCR loan is? Do you want to explain it just in case? Debt service covers regio.
So basically, I had never heard of it. I had a friend of mine who she was buying properties like crazy. And I'm like, I know she doesn't file tax returns. I know her because I coach her. And I'm like, how the hell is she getting all these properties? Well, it turns out she was doing the same thing. And basically, you don't need tax returns. All you got to do is you got to find a property. You have to have a good credit score. Okay. I still have a credit repair business, but my partner runs it in Florida. You have to have a good credit score, and you just have to find a property that's rented, that has tenants, that's actually profitable. So there's like a score they give you. So basically, I shot over like 32 properties to my friend, and I said, here they are. He asked me like all this information, obviously my tax ID, blah, blah, blah. And each house, how much I paid for it, how much it's worth, what's the rent. He's like, hey, these are all awesome. We'll give you a loan on all 32 of them if you want to refinance them. At the time, the rate was like 4.5, which I thought was great because they were giving me a 30-year loan too. No, none of the other banks would ever give me 30-year loans on commercial. They would give me 5, but over a 20-year loan. So I was like, man, 30-year loan, no tax returns. I can literally show a loss every single year on paper and still get approved. I thought this is awesome. And the 30-year loan gave me more cash flow in my pocket, and the rate was the same. Now, the rates did go up, and I ended up getting really mad at her the day before closing. I pulled the loan. I was like, I ain't doing it. Because they were supposed to give me $1 million, and then it went from $1 million to $700 over a 3-month period because the rate changed. So I was like, I had this Florida house picked out, and there goes the Florida house. It was gone. And I was like, my friend talked sense to me. He said, listen, bro, we know what you can do with $700,000. Look what you did with $300 when you started your life in entrepreneurship. He's like, take the money. And then I called my friend Sandy, who lives in California. She owns like 50 rentals around here. She's like, wait a minute, so they're going to give you $700 or $300, but for the same rate? I'm like, yeah, just take the $700. So there was a mix in my family. Like my cousin has a bunch of rentals. He was like, no, don't do it because he has the old school philosophy where you'll have debt till you're 77 instead of like 62. But I have a philosophy that I might not make it to 77. I might not make it to 62. So if I can make 5 or 10, 20 grand more a month now that I'm young, I want to drive a Porsche when I'm still looking young, not when I'm 75. I see these guys 75 years old drive a Porsche. It's like, no, you know what I mean? So, and I know me, I'm a hustler. I can turn that money into more money. So I don't worry about debt. We're going to die anyway. I've never seen a U-Haul at a cemetery. So you're not going to take it. Yeah, you're not going to take anything with you, right? So live your life now. There's no guarantee. You know how many people that I lost during COVID that were in their early 60s, friends of mine, early 60s. So I'm like, nope, I don't care about that. Like, and I'll give you guys an example too. Like, real quick, I had a friend of mine back in the day. He had $100,000. He bought the 2 unit with $100,000 cash. I bought five 2 units with $100,000 cash. So I put down 20, 20, 20, 20, 20. He put down 100. So he was all excited because he has no debt. I had 5 loans. His cash flow was $1,000 a month. My cash flow was only 500 times 5. Actually, it was 600 times 5. So he's making $1,000 a month. I'm making $3,000 a month. Okay. In 20 years, my places are worth $1 million. His are worth $250,000. Also, we do the math on the amounts of rents the difference is like a lot. Plus, how long it takes you to get that 100,000 back is way faster with the 5 units. So I've always been a proponent of good debt. Yeah, you know, so
I was just going to ask you, what's your opinion on leverage, over leverage, under leverage? But I think you just kind of answered it, kind of how that goes.
But old school, like my cousin's old school Greek, I have friends that are Syrian, they're old school, they just like to pay for everything cash. But even the friend of mine who I was a Syrian realtor at one point, he was stuck at 5 properties for the longest time because he had them all paid off. And I was scaling way past, I'm way past my cousin too. He's like 7 or 8 because they're paid in cash. So I refinanced and I took that money, and the rates were higher last year. They were like 6.5, but the rents are so high now. So I went from like 4.5% interest to like a $700 3-bedroom place, and now to where I'm getting $1,300 for 2 bedrooms. So I'm actually making more money now than ever with these higher interest rates because I'm able to do 30 years, and the rents are so high. So when I hear people say, "Oh, I'm waiting for the interest rates to go down," I'm like, what are they talking about? There's so much money to be made.
So, quick question. I don't mean to cut you off, but where are you now, and kind of dial us all back in from your story to where you are now?
So where I'm at now is basically I have 40 tenants left. I ended up buying eight more houses last year, and I'm flipping houses now. My partner's in the back. He has a red hat on too, which wasn't planned, right, Justin? I didn't know we were both going to wear red hats.
Yeah, I know that.
So Justin and I met like a while. I met Justin when he was 18 years old. Actually, he was involved. His sister was involved in my network marketing company. So I went to his house at a meeting in Stroudsburg. I would have never known that 12 years later we'd be business partners. So we flip houses together now. He does the construction. I do more of the buying. I switched gears because for a couple of reasons. One, I don't want any more tenants for a while. I'm honestly just burnt out. I really am. It's a lot. Even if people say get a management company, well, I'm too young to give away 30 grand a year or whatever it is. I don't want to do that yet. But it gets tiresome sometimes to have that many. The flips I'm enjoying. Obviously there's a little stress everywhere, but it's a different type of stress. I'm also in a different place in my life. I don't know how old you guys are, but I just turned 48 last week, and I'm at the point now where this is gonna sound crazy, but like I look around, I have a pool, a jacuzzi, a movie room, a sauna, cars. And I don't want any of it. I don't know what's going on. Like I don't want. Like I wish I could just. I was telling Tara the other day. I was like, I wish I could just go to Greece, come back, and somebody just threw all my stuff away without me seeing it though. Because if I see it, like if I go in my kid's room and I'll be in the room where I was a kid and see all my old baseball cards, like, oh, I'm never throwing those away. But if you just threw them away without me knowing, I would never remember. But I'm kind of like, I would say, if you can't be happy broke, you'll never be happy rich. And I think a lot of us are chasing the money. And for me, I'm very grateful for real estate. I won't sell my rentals because it does allow me to get up when I want, go to sleep when I want. Allows me. Right now, I'm coaching soccer 6 days a week. I coach 5 to 8-year-olds 3 days a week in games, and I coach girls and boys, 12-year-olds, and my nephew, who I don't ever get to see. Now I see him 3 times a week. I could never have done that with a 9 to 5. I couldn't do the things that I'm doing if it wasn't for real estate. So I'm very blessed, but I'm also learning that time is running out. And I want to have, like, the rest of my life be the best of my life. And I want to be able to just be at peace. And I would probably do 10 flips if we could find them, but I'm in a different mind space. I'm kind of like, I've gotten the trophies, I've gotten the money, I've had the cars, like, I've had it all that I want. I don't want yachts, I don't need Rolls Royces, like, I don't want any of that stuff. So it's kind of, like I said, I'm in a transition in my life right now, too. You know?
Yeah. So I know you kind of mentioned doing all those different segments, all your different entrepreneurial things.
Yeah.
Where did you kind of start doing that, and where did that take off? And you're like, oh, I want to continue doing this and build a couple different businesses.
So I guess like when I did the network marketing business and I started making residual income, at the time we were selling electricity in like 10 states, so I was getting paid every time somebody paid a light bill. And I remember thinking like, well, they're never going to stop paying light bill. Nobody's going to unplug their fridge. So this is pretty great. And then it kind of went with the real estate. At one point, I used to have all my tenants be my energy customers. So I was getting bonuses and residual off my tenants. And then when the company found out I put it in my lease, they made me take it out of my lease. You have to take your landlord's energy company. So they made me reword it, like, would you not mind or whatever. So, but I remember thinking like, man, passive income is really great. And I just remember like, if you love what you do, like you don't work a day in your life. So it never felt like work. Like I couldn't believe that I was getting paid. People were willing to give me a car just so that I could go and speak for them, or somebody would like buy. You used to buy clothes off me, didn't you? Right? Yeah. Like I would make clothes and see, like even like So yesterday, somebody sent me a picture. The brand's been like dissolved now for like 3 years, but there's a shop on Main Street in Bethlehem, and one of our leggings was for sale for only $10. I think it should be worth more, but I'm like, man, like our clothes is getting in stores now. We're not even doing business anymore. Like it's like a secondhand store, right? But yeah, it was like once I realized like I didn't have to have a boss anymore. And I'll tell you how I quit my job. I worked for my mom for 10 years. I love my mom; she's amazing, but she was very strict all the time. And I remember when I was doing really well in network marketing company, the owner called me and out of the blue, I got this phone call. I'd never spoken to him before. He's like, "Hey, I just want you to know your numbers look amazing. You're super talented. Like, keep up the good work." And he's like, "You're one of the best guys in the company." And I was like, "Wow, I've only been in the company for a year." I literally walked into my mom's spot like 3 minutes late. She's like, "You're late." She like yelled at me for being late, and she's always late. Like she's infamous late. And so I remember thinking like, and that's the thing, when you become your own boss, you're always late. He's like, you have no concept of time. I try not to be. Well, like, he's like, whatever. But I remember when she yelled at me, I thought to myself, man, this guy who's a billionaire just told me how amazing I am, and my boss is yelling at me for being 5 minutes late. So I quit my job. I quit right on the spot. And I didn't want to quit. I had this like diagram on Microsoft Word where like it showed my residual income and my paycheck. And as they kept moving around the 14th month, they actually crossed where my residual matched my pay. I was only making like $2,600 a month though back then. And I could have quit, but I said, wait a minute, if I stay, your job could suck, but once you realize you have a plan B that you like and it's starting to work, as much as your job sucks, you go to work with a different energy because it's not forever. You're going to like leave that, right? So I was always happy as much as I didn't like working because I knew it was only a matter of time. And I thought to myself, I was listening to like Rich Dad Poor Dad and Robert Kiyosaki and all these guys, and I was like, if I just suffer at my job for one more year and take that 40 grand my mom's paying her, 38, whatever it was, 33, I can't remember, between cutting lawns, I think it was like 40 grand a year. And I just used that to survive, and I stayed home, and I just used all my entrepreneurship money that I'm making for real estate. I'll have a really good life. But I quit my job. And for 2 weeks, I was very like down on myself. I remember I used to wake up and be like, oh my God, I don't have a job, but I'm financially okay right now. But then all of a sudden, I started hustling during the day. Like I was a whole new world opening up. Like, I used to hustle from 7 p.m. to like midnight. Now I was like, people were like, hey, can you come to Jersey at 10 a.m. and do a meeting for me? Yeah, I had nothing to do. And my income doubled. Eventually, I made about the highest I ever made in the network marketing business was $365, which was amazing. And I still get paid by the company, believe it or not. It's dropped about 2/3 of that now, but I don't do much. Pretty much not much at all. Because the company got sold and I was grandfathered into a portion of it. But yeah, after that, I said, there's no way I can ever go back. I can never work for somebody again. The only way I can work for somebody is if I own like a company like, I don't know, like 5% Nutrition or the guy who owns First Form, where I had this big, awesome company and amazing employees, and I was doing something that was like changing the world. And I'd go in every single day if it was that. There's no way like I could punch a clock personally. But at the same time, I need some structure in my life, and that's why I'm coaching kids, because now I'm being told I have to be there by 5:30 every single day. And after a while there, you get to a point where if you're too much freedom, you can get lazy, and you stop having that habit. So you just wake up when you want, you don't know what you're going to do, and that leads to eventually you go backwards. You know what I mean? It's like bathing; it doesn't last. Motivation is like bathing; it doesn't last. You literally have to be really conscious of what you're doing with your life.
Do you think there's parallels between doing the real estate world and building that business and doing like a true secondary entrepreneurial business that has nothing to do with real estate? Are they similar or are they completely different worlds? Because I feel like a lot of people here dance between I'm doing the real estate thing.
I think they're similar to the point where you have to be good with people. I tell people all the time, if you want to get into real estate for houses, don't do it. If you don't want to manage people or be good with people, because people like, I have waiting lists of like tenants that want to rent for me for years that I don't have spaces for. I have tenants that don't ever want to leave. They never want to leave me. And you also obviously have those that just think you're rich and they hate you for no reason. But that's life, right? But no, there definitely is parallels. I mean, I think it all comes down to like good habits too, because I'm like real strict with my books. Like I have to make sure like when Justin does a job for one LLC or another, like like there's times where like maybe my Cash App is linked to like one LLC, but he's working on another one or something. I don't have the ability to pay him out of that one. I make sure I got to go to the bank, or I don't, so I'm really strict with what I'm doing, and when you have those good habits in other businesses and you're successful in a business and it's all going to work together because it's a synergy. And they all work together. I used to literally, I would go to like an LA Fitness. I'd sell you leggings. The next person, I would be like, oh, you want to save on your leg bill? Yeah. Oh, I wish there was a good book. Hold on, I have one. You know, oh, my credit sucks. Really? Hold on, let me fix that credit too. I'm looking for a 3-bedroom. Oh, hold on, call me on Friday. Like, I literally was like, Eric and I were like quadruple dipping. Like somebody would buy my book, rent from me, save money on their energy, I fix their credit, and they join my network marketing business. It was like insane. Like one person became 5 customers. So yeah, they all in parallel. I mean, there's nothing wrong with working. I don't want to take that away from anybody because it's important that we have employees, obviously, and 90% of my family and friends have jobs. And people like jobs. Some people like it. So it's, you know, I worked my whole life up until I'd say 36, 37 is when I quit my job. So don't take that the wrong way either, because I remember when I first became an entrepreneur, I was really cocky. Like, J-O-B, just over broke. And that's stupid. It really is, because you need nurses, you need waiters, you need hotel people. Like, you need people that are helping the rest of the world. And there's nothing wrong with that. Entrepreneurship is not for everybody, but if you can do it, even on a part-time basis, or just, I always tell people all the time, get 5 or 10 rentals just for retirement. You know, you don't have to do it the level that I'm doing it, but just to have, or to pay for your kids' colleges, or pay for those vacations, or just to have your mortgage paid. You know, and now I'm a big proponent of helping. Like, I coach a soccer team, adult soccer team too, and he was supposed to be here today, but I have a 20-year-old, you know him, Chris. I helped him get his first 2-unit when he was 20 years old. I helped him do FHA loan. He put like 3 or 5% down. He's living in the one side right now. He's actually moving out now because the year is up. But I helped him do that, and it's pretty awesome to see, you know, how you can help other people do it.
Yeah.
So, I know that you mentioned all the businesses that you were doing, like at the same time. How did you manage them and like leverage your time?
I'm told like I'm not normal. Like even today, I was like heat pressing shirts. I don't know if you guys saw my photos. Like literally, like I heat pressed 13 soccer shirts while I'm like taking care of the Home Depot order. I don't know how I do half the stuff I do. It's challenging sometimes, but I'm just very driven. I'm very driven. I think like the fact that I work out like 6 days a week still, I think that's like a big part of it. Just the way I am. It's tough though. It is very tough. I think it's hard to like. There's points in time where you have to give all your attention to your real estate business, but then you also have to realize, okay, maybe I'm not giving enough attention to my family or my significant other, and you got to scale back and come back and forth because it's important to have. I don't want to say it's hard to have balance. If you have balance in your life, you're really not going to succeed at anything. Something has to be like going on your most attention, right? Attention flows where energy, and energy flows where attention goes. Your life will always go in the dominant direction of your thoughts. So whatever you're putting the most thoughts into is what's going to really flourish. But there's times where you have to scale back, and or you know, like for example, like if you have children, there might be a conversation you have to have, like, hey, Daddy or Mom's really busy. We're building this real estate business, so we're going to be a little busy for a couple years or whatever. But it's good for the family. We'll go to Disney World in a couple of years, like. You got to sometimes have conversations with people in your life so they understand that.
Yeah. So you coach youth soccer, and I want to dive into that in a minute. But I'm curious, you know, you have an incredible drive. And so that might be from how you grew up. But how do you inspire that in other people? And how do you kind of push that off, whether it's kids in your soccer year or just in people in general?
A lot of it is giving people positive affirmations. A lot of people don't believe in themselves. It's really, you know, the natural state of a garden is weeds. The natural state of the brain is negativity. If you ever think about it, you drive by, you see the sunset, right? And you go, oh, that's a really nice sunset, or that's a really nice tree. But what happens every time, like, there's a car accident or a train around you, you stop your car? Like, oh, wow, like, we're so programmed to always be after the negative. So I think it's just instilling positivity into people and giving them positive affirmations and getting people to believe in themselves. And sometimes it's tough, challenging, but more. I see these kids that I'm working with, I can't, especially when they're between 5 and 7, is when I see the biggest difference. How like 4 weeks ago, some of them had no confidence. I remember the one kid, I went to shake his hand, he hit behind his mom's leg. And now they're like, yeah, we're gonna win. And it's like, you're like, I'm just like, wow, how does a human being change in 3 weeks by just giving them, constantly telling them they're awesome? You know, I mean, Justin, we talk a lot. There's a lot of times when I'm probably giving you positive affirmations.
Always.
And, you know, what are you, 31?
32.
32 now.
32.
But you know, that, and then he sees what, you know, and he sees what we've been able to do, and like, I'm sure in the back of his mind, he knows I can handle whatever comes our way, right? Like, and it's hard to find people in your life that you can count on. that's why if you find that one solid person in your life, don't mess that relationship up because everybody's solid, but even ice melts under heat, right? So it's tough. But I've been through everything in my life. Like I've been through being abandoned as a kid, moving to Greece, getting myself in trouble as a teenager, getting myself in trouble as an adult. I slept in my Jeep for 3 days when I was 19. I had nowhere to live. When I got in trouble, I slept in a place that was a gated community for a couple of days. You guys probably know that anyway. So I've been through so much that I'm like, not that I don't fear anything, but I don't know. I think everything happens for a reason. I think we're all here on a journey to accomplish whatever we're supposed to accomplish. I don't know the answers of why we're here to do what we do, but I think we'll all figure that out hopefully one day, right? So like I said, I just want to leave the world a little bit of a better place. So if I know that I can provide housing for people, good housing, and they're happy, and I can help somebody who's 32 make 6 figures because we're flipping, I feel good about it, right?
Yeah. I think that's one of the coolest things about these meetups, and one of the reasons, we do this and we can put our time into this is because it's such an awesome environment. And it's not just about the education and stuff. It's that we can give back in some capacity, or somebody here can give back to somebody else. Everyone here is out to help. Everyone here is just, I don't know, I feel like a positive person. So.
And as motivated as I am in Germany, don't get me wrong, I have those days where I question, is this really what I still want to do, right? And it's human nature. There's times where I'm like, I can't take it no more, right? Like the last 6 weekends in a row, I told my friends, don't text me on the weekends. They've been texting me on the weekends. Like the other day, I was like, hey, this carbon monoxide test is making a noise. What should I do? Like, how old is he? He's like, oh, it's been here for 10 years. I'm like, just need to battery. I'll get you a new one tomorrow. But there's times where I'm like, hey, maybe this is maybe I should sell it all, So just keep that in mind. You're gonna have those moments, but just remember one thing. I had a friend of mine one time, he was so mad at somebody. He was like, yo, I want to go break this windshield. I'm gonna do it right now. I'm gonna get bricks. And I'm like, I'll tell you what, it was Friday. I'll tell you what, on Monday night, if you still want to break his windshield, I'll go with you. And I'll break my own bricks. He's like, really? I'm like, yeah, well, guess what? Monday night, he didn't want to break it. So always remember there's like a meter between 0 and 10 logic, 0 and 10 emotions. 99% of the time, when your emotions are up at 10, your logic is 0. That's most of the time you get yourself in trouble too. If you're emotional, you say something you shouldn't say or act the way you say. So a lot of times, it just means you need a break. Maybe you need a 2-day vacation. Go somewhere. Go to New Hope. Get an Airbnb. You just need to change the scenery, or just take a break from your phone. There's times where I tell my workers, I can't give you that crack money tonight. You can have it find somewhere else. You know what I mean? But some of it. But you're laughing because I know. The point is, sometimes you gotta just take a breather for yourself, and you can't. Sometimes it's okay to say no to people. And I think a lot of us that are motivated, we always want to be that yes person, right? We want to make sure that we're always yes, I can do. So it's challenging sometimes, but just realize even myself, I have challenges sometimes. Where I doubt myself. Or I get that little voice like, hey, maybe this isn't what you want to keep doing, or maybe that's too much work.
I gotta touch on that because you brought it up, because I feel like everyone here and a lot of people I talk to are just hustle, and that hustle culture is just run yourself right into the ground, and if you're not in the ground, you're not succeeding.
Correct.
So how do you kind of battle that and actually take time for yourself?
I can tell you this, I was listening to a guy named Brad something yesterday. He was talking about how he smokes pot, and which I don't. I eat white gummies, so I fell asleep on it. Soccer. When you're 48 playing soccer as 22-year-olds, you need THC, gummies, CBD, kryptonite, whatever else. But you were saying, yeah. So I'm gonna tell you, I usually will come out of the gate the first 3 months of the year so fast that I do more in 3 months than everybody does in a year. I literally will flip a house, buy a house, this. But I'm gonna tell you right now, firsthand, I don't get up at 3 o'clock. I used to read 10 pages of a good book every day. That I will tell you, I did that for 6 years straight. I read about 400 books, and I would do it on the treadmill. I was always the guy on the treadmill reading 10 pages. I hate reading. I don't have an appetite for it, but I remember telling myself, if I read 10 pages a day, in a year from now, I'll have read 12, 13, 20 books. Nestor, I used to have you read, remember? And it changed my life. It definitely did. But eventually, the books all became kind of the same, different, really different. But no, I know there's times where I get up at noon and I'm still out hustling people, because in this day and age, you don't even got to hustle that hard. You'll beat 90% of the population. That's the kind of world we live in right now. So when you hear people saying Eric Thomas, I'm up at 4 o'clock every morning. No, he's not. There's no way. There's no way. Don't get me wrong. I go to the gym 6 days a week, but there's times where, I might not just be for 2 days, but then I make sure that third day I go crazy for a day. It's not even about how much time. It's what you can. What. It's not about the quantity. It's the quality. to what you're actually doing in that time frame. You can get a lot done. I remember when I was teaching network marketing, people would say, I don't have a lot of time. I said, do me a favor, put in 15 minutes a night, 5 days a week, and you'll be amazed at what this business does for you, right? It's like anything else. So
Yeah.
All right, so what are your goals for the rest of this year? What do you want to accomplish?
goals. So I don't really do goals like that anymore. I kind of look at my life like a football season. This is how I always analyze it. So like just 12 games in a year. I try to end every year with a no less than 7-5 record. 8-4, 9-3, 10-2. If I have a 6-6 record or 5-7, my life is going to go in a direction I don't want it to go. So I look at it as like I got to win the week to win that month. So as long as I'm winning 3 of the 4 weeks in the month, I won that month. So I try to win each month, and then I look back and I go, wow, I had 9 really good months. That could be productivity, looking at houses, thinking about houses, whether it's working on my business part-time, working on my personal life, health, whatever it is, but something positive. And it's just like anything else. If you have a 9-3 season, 5 years in a row, you're going to be like the New England Patriots. You're going to have this like dynasty of your life. Your life is going to have to be better than it was. So if I had to say goals, I like to say, okay, we're in April. I'd like to flip like 2 more homes at least 2 more homes. I don't want any rentals. What else? I also just want to focus a little bit more on like my own peace and family, stuff like that. So more of like personal goals, and just get back more to my community like I'm doing right now with the kids. But financial goals, like it's not that I don't want to make any more money. It's just that money does not. I'm gonna be honest with you guys. Money no longer motivates me. It doesn't. Like if I had to cut my income in half, and that meant I had to like shop the rest of my life at Kohl's and all these, I would do it. And I don't mean to sound down about that. I just, like I said, I'm in a different place. I know some of the richest people are the most miserable people. And so my advice to you is, yes, go after all this for generational wealth for yourself to have a good life. But for me, it's more important that I can leave something behind. I don't want to just leave credit card debt in a toolbox to my kids or my nephews. I want to leave them to have a better life. So I know that I gave them more than they gave me, and anybody gave me. But I don't have specific goals anymore. I do recommend that you write your goals down. People say, oh, I wish I could go to like Greece. I'm like, if you don't put it in your calendar, it's never going to happen. I can literally look at somebody's calendar right now and tell you how much money you're probably going to make this year or not.
It's so important.
I can look at how many appointments you have, how many jobs you have. Whatever's written in that calendar is really going to base your life. If Disney World is not in the calendar, it's never going to happen. So be more conscious of like small wins. Right now, if you go home and you write down, here's what somebody told me a long time ago and it helped me a lot. They said, go home, write 10 things you want to accomplish this year. And then circle the one that would change your life the most and work on that.
It's funny because I listened to, I don't know if it's Bigger Pockets or something, probably a year or 2 ago, and it was the same thing. They're like, I can tell what somebody's going to do or achieve this year by what's on their calendar. And I remember I was like, that's so interesting. Open my calendar, nothing. And I'm like, and I just remember thinking about that, like, how do I change this? And it's just all inputs. And so I remember I always talk to people and they're like, well, what are you doing all day? I'm like, whatever it takes. Like, you fill your calendar and you just keep trying things and things will happen.
Networking is really important. I mean, there's people here that, like I always say, like, where's the money in the world? It's in other people's pockets. All the money out there is out there. It's already printed. It's just, there's no shortage of money. There's shortage of people going for it. But all the money's in somebody else's pocket. The question is, how do you get it in that pocket, right? How did Justin get in my pocket where I'm like, I just spent like $140K to a house I never even went to, right?
All the time. Yeah.
Yeah, like
last like 4 flips.
like, I just look at the pictures like a microscope of, yo, what's up with that spot right there? It's a shadow. I'm like, no, it ain't. But yeah, so it's really important to go out and network and reach out to people all the time. I mean, if you're somebody you say you're motivated with online, I would send them a friend request and say, hey, I just added you. You look like a motivational person. I look forward to networking with you. Before you try to sell them on anything, because when you message me, you try to sell me on like whatever. What value is this person bringing to the table? But if somebody messages me and says, hey, I love your content, I look forward to networking with you one day. You're going to build that rapport with somebody before you just try to like jab them with what you want to do in your life.
Yeah, I want to wrap up, but I do want to dive into first. I want to go back and touch on the kids' soccer. So why get into that? Tell me more, because I think it's an awesome thing.
Like I was really bored, and when I was a kid, I came back to it. So here's this little quick story on that. When I was in Greece, I played soccer with these like little jelly shoes. I don't know what they're called. They're like, the Albanians would sell them on like trucks. They would yell on a microphone, and they're like $2. And they had a little strap on them. They were like waterproof. And then we had like a soccer ball, and we had stone parking lots. We used to play in stone parking lots. So there was these little things called Koufalis sandwiches. They were these little like wafers. And every time you bought one, there was a soccer card in it. If you collected all 100 soccer players, you would get a free soccer ball. So I would go around the whole village. I was like a little kid, like 8, and I asked everybody for like, can I get 5 cents? Can I get 5 cents? And I would buy all these wafers, and my grandmother's fridge was full. I would need them. Well, eventually I got all the cards, and I got a free soccer ball. So I played soccer, and my mom was like, hey, you love soccer so much. When you go home, I'm going to put you in soccer. I was living there for the summer. It was like, I was like maybe 10. I used to go visit my grandmother. I come back to America, and my mom signs me up for soccer at Martin Luther King down there on like 10th Street, whatever that is. And they gave me cleats, and like we had grass, and I was like, oh my God. And I was like really good. I won a championship my first year, won a championship my second year.
Yeah, so thank you all for coming. And like we said, please check out the sponsors. Ade and I work really hard on putting this together, but thank you all for coming here. So thank you guys so much for coming and being a part of this. And please help yourself to everything here. So. Oh, absolutely. Thank you so much.